Good afternoon, Boston buddies. Welcome back. We haven't seen you in a while. It's been about 2 weeks since we last spoke on Brunch with Boston Buddies when we interviewed Billy Rogers and Natalie Dorset, and we had Ian Eckersley as well join us. Seems like it was forever ago. Today, we're bringing back the series. Paul Clerici is going to be joining us again, and he has a special treat for us. This is actually going to be the first of a two-part series where he's going to be explaining the monuments, all the different monuments along the Boston Marathon course. That's going to be part one. And then for part two, we'll go over the monuments that are off the course and actually all over the world. They're in Iowa, Canada, Ireland. It's very, very enlightening. And Paul's done a really great job. He's got a lot of these pictures from books that he's written. Paul's done a really great job of putting them together, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy this. So welcome, Paul. How are you today?
Oh, very well. How are you, Vince? That's very good. Good intro. I like that. It's like, oh, yeah, all over the world. It is.
Right. Well, yeah, we were joking. We're going to have a scavenger hunt and see who can be the first Boston buddy to take a picture next to all the monuments that were listed in these two sessions.
That'll take a while. That'll be like going to do your 50 staters. There's about, I think, around 60 or so monuments and statues in 8 states and 5 countries. So good luck.
Well, I wouldn't put it past the people in this group. They're a fast group.
Good.
So part one, we're going to talk about the monuments that are on the course. We're going to start at the start in Hopkinton. We're showing you a picture of the Korean church that is in the little town of Hopkinton. So, Paul, do you want to give us a little background about what the church represents?
Yes, this is the Korean Presbyterian Church in Greater Boston in Hopkinton. A lot of the runners remember that because it's probably what they stare at for a long time when they're at the starting line, because it's right on the runner's left at the start. The little tower in the church has a clock, and for years it would always at noon the gun would go off, but now obviously it's much earlier in the morning. But it's kind of neat seeing that church there, and people kind of don't really see the little monument on the bottom left there on the front yard. You will see of the church. It's like a plaque, a granite slab there, which is really nice, and it lists the top Korean Boston finishers, including world records. And it's really neat when you walk up to it. Some of these photos, I'll try to give you the image of the overall area and then the actual monument, because some of them are flat that you really can't see if you drive by. So the monument is right on the front yard of the church, and it was dedicated in 2004 for the 100th anniversary of Korean immigration. Douglas Duke-Soo Won created it, so it's really nice to see. Colors faded a little bit, but it's a nice monument to see there.
Yep. Yeah, I flipped to the second slide here, which is the actual plaque that I think you're talking about. It says 1903, 2003 Korean American Centennial Boston Marathon, and in the bottom right-hand corner, it has Douglas. Douglas Won? Is that how you say it?
Douglas Duke-Soo Won, yes.
Won. Okay.
Yeah, he created that. It's great because he owned Duke-Soo's world record from 1947 when he won. There's a 2001 winner, Bong Joo Lee, 1950. They swept for second and third, so it's a nice addition to all the different trophies that have been bestowed on the runners. So they actually see something there that we can see in Hopkinton right there across the start. So it's elevated a little bit on an angle, because it's still tough to see if you're walking on the street, especially if you don't know it. So it's a great place. There's a lot right in Hopkinton there. And by the way, to let the Boston buddies know again, I don't have a webcam, so you'll see lots of photos and pictures. And Vince occasionally, so I'm not camera shy. I just don't have a webcam, so that's why there's lots of pictures.
It's all pictures today. I'm not showing my face. I'm going to spare them.
Okay, that's good. Good. They got to take their notes for the travels.
So the next one is the picture of George Brown, the starter, the longtime starter for the Boston Marathon. So this one's
George V. Brown. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he was a longtime BAA official. The Brown family is associated with the Boston Marathon at BAA. There's been a Brown family member as a BAA president, race officials, in the clubhouse. So for decades, other than 1 year, I think in 1990, there's been a Brown family member who has started one of the Boston Marathon. Now there's a bunch of different starts, but the connection of the Brown family goes back decades. So it's nice to have that statue. Michael Alfano did that statue. It's actually lined up to the starting line. So if you visit the statue and stand in front of it and turn around, you'll see the starting line right lined up to the statue. This is right on Hopkinton Common now. There's a few things on Hopkinton Common. So as a runner waiting at the starting line, this will all be to your right. It's a big green area in Hopkinton Common. It's a great statue, very great detail.
And then the building in the background, it always has the sign, the Welcome to Hopkinton, or a Welcome to Hopkinton, Boston Marathon sign. You can see that on one.
Yeah, that yellow building, that's the BAA headquarters, the yellow building right there.
Yeah.
And you'll see Marathon Way, which is a little streetway, roadway in front of the statue that sort of parallels Main Street there. So that whole area is really nice, very Boston Marathon centric. So there's quite a few things. If you go to Hopkinton Park, you can see, as you'll see with these photos, quite a few different monuments and things right in that area. They really recognize the race, which is nice.
Yep. All right, then the next statue, or next picture, is the John Kelly crossing. Are those your sneakers that you see in this picture?
Yeah, it was funny when I took this. I took it initially without my running shoes staying there, and it was very gray and brownish. And then when I took the next photo, I just happened to have my feet were there and go, oh, that's color. But yeah, the common, there's two brick walkways that intersect in the middle of the common. And this plaque, again, it's on the ground, so you can't see it. It's not elevated. Is right in the middle where those two sort of crossroads or brick paths meet. The weekend of the marathon each year, they open up the common. They have a visitors center there. They have hot dogs and hamburgers and souvenirs to sell. So some runners usually go there Saturday or Sunday to enjoy it. That's the common right there, so you can see the Johnny Kelly crossing. It's those two brick pathways that cut right through and intersect in the middle of that common.
Yeah, I've walked on that path. I don't know how many times. I've never looked down to see what I was walking on. Now next time I'm up there, I got to go find this.
Yeah, you're walking on Johnny Kelly. They did that in 1996 as part of the centennial, which is great because Johnny, as everyone knows, Johnny Kelly won in 1935 and 1945. He has a record of the most starts. He started Boston 61 times. He finished it 58 times, so he has the most record of finishing. I mean, he came in second place 7 times. He's a legend. He was great, and he was very personable. I met him many times and talked to him. So these little honors are very heartfelt with him. He was such a part of Boston and Cape Cod where he lived. He was just such a part of the whole thing. So you'll see Johnny Kelly pop up once in a while, and one of them is right there. So you're on the crossing, didn't even know.
Yeah. The Boston documentary does a really good job of telling his story and showing how much he was loved by the whole city. And they show him running when he was well into like in his 80s and running down, blowing kisses to the crowd and things like that. And they just loved him.
Oh yeah, we loved it. And even after, he was the type that after the winners, people waited for him to finish. The race wasn't over, so to speak, unless you had some people in there you knew, until Johnny Kelly finished. He ran until 1993, the full marathon, and he had also run. We'll get to it later from his statue in. But yeah, he was the race to many people. So his spirit continues. Again, you'll see him pop up every once in a while, and the documentary really acknowledged him nicely.
Yeah, just one of the many gentlemen that make the Boston Marathon special.
Oh, definitely. He's a 2-time Olympian. It's just everything. It's just amazing. So yeah, he was special.
And then speaking of special men, we've got the next picture is Rick and Dick Hoyt, which is another statue that's at the start in Hopkinton as well.
Yes, this is on the other side. So if the runners, if you face Hopkinton Common, the far left corner of the common, on Ash Street. Ash Street is the one in the earlier photo in front of the yellow building, the BA club headquarters, with the George B. Brown statue photo. Ash Street goes down that part of Hopkinton Common on the left, and there used to be a school there called Center School, maybe a block down there. So it's you can walk. It's just the other side of the common, and that's where they put the Yes You Can statue of Rick and Dick Hoyt, Team Hoyt. Because if runners remember, when they still do this, they line up the wheelchair athletes on Ash Street. So that's where he lined up all the time, was in that little area. And then the wheelchair athletes would then move into the starting area. But they would line up in their grid according to their seating and everything on Ash Street. So it was nice to have the statue right in front of the school, because people wondered why it's in front of the school, not the common or this and that. That's why, because that's where he was for the 32 years that he, Rick has done more. Dick Hoyt stopped a few years ago.
Right.
But yeah, so for the 30 plus years, that's where they always started. So there's a great place to put the statue. It's a beautiful statue.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, Brian Lyons obviously passed away last week, unfortunately, very untimely. And he was a member of the Boston Buddies.
Yes.
And we're actually running in his honor. Becca Peasy formed a team for Dave McGilvery's cross country relay or cross country race that he's doing. He's doing the virtual race from Medford to Medford. So
Medford to Medford, yeah.
so Becca Peasy started a team in honor of Brian Lyons, and she messaged me over the weekend. So the people that signed up for the Boston Buddies team, we merged. We all went over to her team, so they combined us today. So we're all going to be running in his honor over the next couple of months, trying to trek across the country virtually.
Yeah, he took over from Dick, because Dick Hoyt had a heart attack and did really well after that, had some back pain. So he gave up about 5 years ago for pushing Rick, the Boston Marathon. So he took over the past 5 years. So actually, Rick has more Bostons than Dick. But as Rick always says, too, I crossed the finish line before my father anyway.
Right. He's never lost.
Exactly. But it's a beautiful statue Mike Tabor created in 2013. So if you get a chance, it looks so good. I remember Dick telling me that they were, Mike Tabor took pictures and everything, and throughout the process over Skype, he'd be looking at it, and he goes, it was weird seeing my face and body and Rick's, as it was being sculpted and everything, to see yourself. So it's the likeness of it is amazing. Yeah,
it's very detailed. I've seen it many times, and it's, it's very emotional when you look at that. You can actually see the emotion in their face and everything, and seeing it in person is I highly recommend everybody trying to trek up there and go to Hopkinton and find this statue right. It's really right at the starting lines. We're off to the left a little bit.
If you can see it from like that first statue of George V. Brown, the starter. If you stand there and just look diagonally to your left at the other end of the Hopkinton Common, you'll see it on the edge because it's on the other side of the street. But all these things in Hopkinton right here, like I say, you park right at the Common, you can walk to all. Even the start line would have paint on it, so you might be able to see some of the paint, depending on when you visit and everything. And there's 3 blue lines painted. I didn't include these as monuments, but there's 3 blue lines painted the first mile of the course to signify from the 2013 bombings and the help that the first responders did. I didn't include any of the bombing statues and monuments because I thought if we ever do talk about that, that'll be a different program. There are several. There's 2 obviously near the finish line. Each fatal victim has one as well. There's one MIT and there's one for each person. So there are several. So we're not ignoring them. They're not going to come up in our talk here. But you'll see the 3 blue lines. That's what that signifies if you see that on the road.
Yeah, we can definitely do another session on that specific topic.
Yes, that's what I figured. Yeah, I thought something like that. So that's why I include these with this.
And then we've got the next ppstatue here is Spirit of the Marathon, depicting two runners. Yeah, so who are the 2 runners in this statue?
This is the Spirit of the Marathon at the 1 mile mark. So most of us, as we run, don't see it because it's actually about like 10 feet from the course. I want to say you can't miss it, but when you're running in the Boston Marathon in the first mile, you're worried about getting, elbowed in the ribs or tripped on, so you're really kind of focused. But it's right there at the Western Nurseries on your left, Garden Center at 93 East Main Street, if you ever want to visit it. Mikko Kaufman created this. The gentleman on the left is actually Stylianos Kyriakidis, the Greek runner who won Boston in 1946. And the gentleman on the right is 1896 modern Olympic marathon winner Spiridon Louis. And there's a terrific story. I did a very in-depth story about this one in a magazine. Stylianos' son, Dimitri, really advocating for his father and everything. When Stylianos won in 1946, Greece had just come out of the war, and they were in very bad shape. So when Stylianos won this, he kind of stayed in the United States for a couple of months to collect funding and clothing and food and everything, literal truck and ship filled of material that he brought back to Greece. Basically the first charity benefit runner, so think of it that way, that he ran to help save his people in Greece because they were ravaged after the war and the Civil War. Mm-hmm. So he did that. And when the book came out on Stylianos, I think it was like the late 90s, early 200s, they were thinking about a statue. Dimitri was thinking they could have a statue in Greece for the 2004 Olympics. Mm-hmm. So there's an actual identical statue that you see here in Hopkinton. There's an identical one in Greece. But there's this, I won't go through the whole story, but there's this big story that it was originally just Stylianos Kyriakidis running. And Mikko Kaufman created it, beautiful statue on top of, looks like a mountain area of Greece that you'll see later. And they were going to put it in Marathon in Greece. And the mayor, Dimitri was telling me, the mayor agreed to it. It was great. Then they changed the mayor, the different mayor. The mayor didn't want it. So then Dimitri, this is while the statue is being created and almost done in time for the 2004 Olympics that were going to be in Athens. So then Dimitri said, well, let's have it in Athens, if you can't have it in the start or the finish area of the marathon, the original marathon, mm-hmm. one or the other. So then the new mayor said, well, I kind of like that, but we need another statue with it. And Dimitri and them are like, are you kidding me? He goes, yeah, we want Spiridon Louis, who won the 1896 modern Olympic marathon, the first one. Any artists out there know that when you're basically done creating a statue, it's tough to do another one. Yeah. So what Mikko did incredibly, if you look at that photo closely, is that he created a separate statue of Spiridon Louis, and he sort of attached it to the side of Stylianos. And mm-hmm. if you look at Spiridon's feet, his feet don't really touch the ground. And that's how it got the name of the spirit of the marathon, that Stylianos Kyriakidis is running alongside the spirit of Spiridon Louis. And that's how they solved that problem of two statues, by adding Spiridon, sort of attached it to this already created statue. That's it. So there's two. There's one in Greece. So if you Boston buddies are going to go travel to get your picture, don't cheat and take two pictures of you in Hopkinton. You got to go to Greece for the other one.
Right. The trip just got a lot more expensive.
Yes, exactly. And there's a few others of Stylianos in Greece too, but I didn't include those in here. But yeah, there's a few others in Greece. But yeah, he's amazing. He actually had a watch too. He was one of the first winners to use a watch. I mean, the guy was tremendous. And Johnny Kelly was a big friend of his too. So great story.
And then the next picture is actually the same statue, but it's the bottom of the statue, and it's showing a couple of other.
Yeah, it's the base of the statue. Yeah, the rocky part of this is supposed to replicate Greece. Part of the Greece Rocky Mountain is the siding and everything. The gentleman, so to speak, on the left of the horns, for all the history buffs, is the demigod Pan, and legend has it that he helped the Athenians beat the Persians in 490 BC in Marathon. The famous Battle of Marathon, where the Persians tried to defeat the Athenians, and with greater sources and greater numbers of people, but the Athenians beat them. And legend had it that the demigod Pan helped them out with that. And then after the Athenians won, the gentleman to the right that you see in that photo is Phidippides, the Greek messenger, who, legend has it, ran from Marathon to Athens to tell everybody in Athens that we won. And then he collapsed, according to legend. But and then the first marathon, actually, because then the Athenians were afraid the Persians would come back to Athens, because they beat them in marathon. So what everybody did, from Marathon to Athens is about 40 kilometers or so. All the Athenian soldiers ran from Marathon to Athens to be ready for a second battle. And then when the Persians reached Athens, they saw all these troops and they went away. I'm simplifying it a little bit, but they basically saved our democracy by winning that battle. So it's a beautiful statue that has that history. And on the other side of that, which I don't have a photo of, is a face. There's a face of Stylianos with a wreath around him, very detailed. It's on the other side of that those little rockies. So if you do see that statue, it's just walk around it, look at the detail. Everything has a meaning. It's a beautiful statue, and the one in Greece as well.
And then next picture is in Ashland, actually, and it's the I guess depiction of the first running of the Boston Marathon, correct?
Yes. Ashland. The first 27 years of the Boston Marathon started in Ashland, not Hopkinton. And this mural by Robert Levine in 2016, sort of, and this is affixed to the ground there, so you can see this at the original site. So it depicts what it would look like in 1896. So if you look at that, it's a beautiful mural. On the left, you'll see a building there. That's the Metcalfe's Mill. Used to make cardboard boxes for shoes and everything. And the blue area is the Sudbury River. And then you'll see the runners lined up, and on the right, you'll see the train tracks. All the important elements of the first race at Boston Marathon 1897. This is about 24 and a half or so miles from Boston. The train's important because the BAA officials, when they decide where to go to have this marathon, because for the 1896 Modern Olympic Games, the BAA actually sent quite a few different athletes to the Modern Olympic Games. Mm-hmm. And what they actually did was they came back with the idea of the marathon, because that was one of the events at the Olympic Games. Yep. So the BAA had their own games. So they figured this would be a great race to have. So the train allowed them, the spectators, the officials, and the runners to actually travel from Boston to wherever 24 and a half, 25 miles ended, which, there you go, happened to be right there in Ashland. And then the mile markers, if you ever see those old photos of mile markers, they're like 24 and a quarter or 16 and 1/3 miles. That wasn't for the runners back in the old days. That was for the race officials, because that's where the train would stop, and the race officials would come out and check the leaders and stuff, get back on the train. Train will go to the next stop. That's why there was these weird mile marker amounts and distances back then. But the beautiful mural, it's right there. It's very lovely, the colors and everything.
Yeah, it's pretty. And then the next one is, I guess the next one's Marathon Park in Ashland, and it's a play on the "It All Starts Here" from Hopkinton, where it says "It all started here."
Yep. They originally had a nice metal sign saying it all started here, and then they finally replaced that in Ashland. That area that you saw at Metcalfe's Mill was in that mural. The mill had burned down in the 30s. So what they did is they really refurbished and re-landscaped that whole area. And they named it Marathon Park, which is a nice sign right there that in 2013 by Lou Mancini. Behind that plaque, you'll see some, which we'll get to later, but the whole area is where the mill was. That all those trees would have been the buildings at the end of the Sudbury River. So they made nice wooden walkways, and they put panels on there, 6 panels that describe the history of the first 27 years of the race that happened in Ashland. Really made it nice with some benches and things. And this is at the site of the original race. 1897 and 1898 started right there on Pleasant Street, where that sign is, right about there. And they've had some races there, so you actually start. They've had some Ashland half marathon races, so you can start in the original start. So the history is really nice that they've preserved that. So that mural is right to the right of that, the Marathon Park blue sign that we're looking at. So the mural is right to the right of that. It's all really close, so you can see everything.
Gotcha. Okay. And then the next picture is the Keeper of the Flame. This is it says the inscription of a lot of the, like Jacques Semple and Bob Campbell, some of the old directors of the marathon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is to the left of that blue sign actually too, and in the same area. Yeah, there was some decades there, some years that the race, wasn't as revered and taken care of as it is now. And these gentlemen really kept it going. Jerry Nason, the sports writer of the Globe, Sports Editor, really kept it going with all the stories and everything. And Tony Noda with the chief at the time. I mean, these gentlemen really kept that going. And Jock Semple, of course. There was no official race director until Will Cloney in '46. So Jock was basically a de facto race director, as you've seen pictures of him directing it and everything with his little clipboard or briefcase. So these guys really kept it, the continuity, kept it going, kept the race a race for these years. That was kind of tough. So it was nice when they put this monument there at the same spot right to the left of the that blue sign. So again, if you drive to this area, as a crow's flight, it's probably a mile from the course. It's right across from the Ashland commuter rail station. For directions wise, it's just near the. If you go to, there's a red light at the Main Street that cuts across. Say you're on the marathon course and you drive the way you would be running. At the red light of Main Street, you take a left, and then the red light of Pleasant Street, you take a left, and you come to this area. Very close. Not on the course itself, but you can access it. It's really worth seeing. It's where it all began, so it's worth going.
Yeah, and these guys were doing it before the big money came in. So there wasn't any money in it. They were just doing it because they loved it.
No, there was no money. There was nothing. I mean, John Hancock started in 1986. So as you can see, these were the late 70s, early 80s, where we almost lost the marathon. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this was people just did it out of love, out of just the grassroots of running races. They just kept it alive. Small fields and everything, but yeah, it's thanks to that. So Keepers of the Flame is a good way of saying it.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the next picture is it is three plaques basically on the wooden boards. Where was this located?
Yeah, this is the sort of a little wider shot. The Sudbury River is on your right. That monument on the left there is the Keepers of the Flame. And it just kind of shows you the general area. The crosswalk is basically the start line, the original start line. Pleasant Street was a little different then, but primarily that's the original start line. So if you walk down those brick roads, the brick path, you'll start to pass some of those panels, those plaques, those telling you about that has all the information of the marathon back then. So it's a nice little area. That's where the mill used to be at the beginning of the Sudbury River here at the end. So that mural kind of gives you an idea when you look at the mural there of just what it used to look like way back then. Mm-hmm. So it's a great place to visit. I mean, it's really, and if you really want to extend that visit, as I said, 1897, 1898, the first 2 years was right there. And then the BAA, there's no real monuments, but the BAA completed their clubhouse in Boston, and they wanted the marathon to finish in front of that. So they had to adjust the starting line. So what they did is they moved the starting line for the next 8 years to the High Street Bridge, which is from this photo to your left, it's like maybe a half mile or so. It's a bridge that goes over the train tracks. So from 1899 to 1906, the Boston Marathon started on that bridge. And then it got to too many people, like under 100, but it was to them too many people. So the third start line in Ashland from 1907 to 1923 is on West Union Street. It's at the current 4-kilometer mark. So when Boston Marathon runners run the current course, when they get to about the 4-kilometer mark, that was the last starting line area of when it was in Ashland. Mm-hmm. So there's no markers. There's nothing, no monument to show. But I figured while you're there, if you want to see the actual original three starts, that's where they are, which is neat. And if you forget all this, actually, the information and photos are actually in the 2 Boston Marathon books I wrote, the Boston Marathon History by the Mile, and the recent one, Images of Modern America, the Boston Marathon. So I do include all that information in there, as well as extra photos and things. So if you want to go on a tour. Mm-hmm.
That's what I was joking with you. You could easily conduct a tour marathon weekend of people and take them on a bus ride to see all these things.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Even like this photo, like you can see by the water, there's 3 plaques along the path there, I guess, explaining all the history of the marathon, even on those plaques as well.
Yeah, they break it down. I think one plaque is Clarence DeMar. One plaque is about some of the other runners, how the first 2 years. So there's 6 different ones with great information. In one of the books, I put 2 of the plaques in. There's just so much information, very well researched and everything from the Ashland Sporting Association area. So it's really, they did a great job. It's nice.
Nice.
Because for a while it wasn't. It was just one little sign on a tree, let you know. That was it for decades. So I'm glad they really refurbished it. And they have more plans too to make a little museum and everything. So it's a great place to look at.
Yeah, it'd make a great trip, especially, when you're up there for Boston Marathon weekend, Saturday or Sunday, and you look for something to do. Go into Ashland, go into all these other towns and see the plaques that are out there. Yeah.
It's very accessible. Everything's close to each other. I mean, everything we've discussed right now is probably within like a 5-mile radius, just from what we've gone through already. And so everything's close together, which is nice. Yeah. So you can make, within a day, you can do a lot, and enjoy it, not rush through it too, so you can enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, I flipped to the next picture, which is, I guess, the 25-mile out marker, the old 25-mile marker.
Yeah, that's neat. That's neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's lined up again with the start line, the crosswalk. If you face the Sudbury River and the Marathon Park, if you turn around, you'll see this off the road a bit. The parking lot is the Amtrak train station, and right in front of that B25 post is the train tracks. So it's right there. I think there's a fence in front of it, so you can't get as close as I did with this photo, but you can still see it and take pictures. It's really neat. B meaning Boston, 25 miles away, because the early marathons were around 40 kilometers, 24 and a half, 25 miles, roughly around there. They weren't really too precise until later on, but that's what that marker means. So it's a great thing to look at, especially, right there. And it looks old, nice and weathered and everything.
Yeah, it's a piece of history.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And then the next picture is the Johnny Kelly Young at Heart statue, which depicts, the younger Johnny Kelly holding hands with himself as an older man running the course. I love this statue. It's beautiful on the course.
Yeah, this is a great one. Yeah, I love this one. Rich Muno did this, the Young at Heart statue. You're right. The Johnny Kelly on the left is when he won it in 1935. He's holding hands with himself from 1992 when he last ran it. So it's a good little end post, because he had run it before 35, but it's great picking his first victory and his last full run. But it's really neat. This was, I think you said you haven't seen this when you run and everything.
Well, it's off to the side. It's a little hard to see, like when you're actually running the marathon. I've seen it doing the Hop 21 because there's usually a lot of people around this at Hop 21. Right. Yeah. Yeah,
it's tough. It's back about 80 feet. It used to be, if you're familiar with that area, this was dedicated in 1993, the day before the 1993 Boston Marathon. Actually, Ibrahim Hussein, 3-time winner who had won the defending champion, actually came. Bill Rogers came. It was a great dedication. The statue is facing sort of Commonwealth Avenue, which is the course. Bisecting that right there is Walnut Street. In 1993, the statue was actually located across the street on the other side of Walnut Street, and it was facing the runners. That's where the original site was. And then several months after it was dedicated, somebody hit it with their car, Boston drivers, So, sorry. So it broke its arm, so they had to repair the arm, and they didn't want to put it back to the same spot, thinking this could happen again. Only took a few months for the first time. So what they did is they put it on this side of Walnut Street, where it is now, and back about 70 to 80 feet, and now it's facing the direction of the runners. Right. So they figured I asked them why they did that for a number of reasons. One of them was now he's kind of running with the runners, which I guess is nice. But it was great to actually see him facing you. Mm-hmm. And you're right, it's so far back. I mean, you got like a sausage truck in the way, and you're running, and it's tough to see where it is during the race. But when people train, they use that as a marker. They put the water bottles. I include this photo because there's nothing on it. All the other times of the year, you'll see, beads on it or flags or running shoes. Right now, there's surgical mask on his face like everyone else is supposed to be wearing. Mm-hmm. So this is a nice unadulterated photo of this is what it looks like. But it's a great place when people start to train, that's where they'll go. It's at the 19.1 mile mark right after Newton City Hall to give everyone sort of an idea. about a mile before Heartbreak Hill. Is the next photo will show a little bit sign of the next hill kind of thing. But that's where this is. So if you want to go and see it, it's worth seeing. It's a beautiful statue. I remember that I asked the people when they replaced the statue. I've always wondered how did they do that, and they had a big crane holding the statue, which was connected to that big granite base, and then they had the gray granite. Then they had the white stones as the base to put it on. And the son of the garage owner who had the crane and everything, as it was being lowered down, he put $10 underneath as like good luck. You know, when sometimes on ships the mast has coins and stuff. So I asked him why he did that. He goes, I don't know, I was a kid. He goes, but if you ever see the statue toppled over, that means I needed my $10 back.
Did they ever
But what they did, so far so good, I guess. But they put bags of ice. Well, yeah, they put bags of ice on the white stone there, and they lowered the statue very slowly onto the bags of ice with people around it. So as the ice got crushed and melted, that gave them a few minutes to adjust where the statue is going to be. That was like a buffer.
Okay.
And then once the statue landed, that was it. It wasn't going to move. So it's an interesting process to put that back. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I flipped to the second picture here where it shows from behind and you can see the street. And you can see
Yes, this one's from behind, yep.
It's off the beaten path.
Yeah, there's Walnut Street in front. Yeah, Walnut Street is one that's going from left to right. And on the other side of Walnut Street, near the little sidewalk light is where it was originally. The car is parked on Commonwealth Avenue. It's the Boston Marathon course. Mm-hmm. So that's just to give the Boston buddies an idea of where this is, for those who don't know. So that's the course. To Commonwealth Avenue that goes from the right to the top of the photo where the car is. That's Com Ave. And that's part of the course. And the story, obviously, when Johnny Kelly won Boston in 1935, he came back in 1936 as the defending champion and the favorite. So when he approached this area of the course in the race, he was behind Tarzan Brown, another one of my great runners. And he started to catch up to Tarzan Brown, and he caught up to him around 20 and a half miles right before Boston College and sort of tapped Tarzan on the back, kind of like, it's my race, I got it now, which sort of woke up Tarzan, who just took off, ended up winning, and Johnny came in fifth that year, 1936. And Jerry Nason, who's one of the gentlemen on the Keepers of the Flame monument that we saw earlier, who was a sports editor of the Globe, who was covering that year as many years, and he wrote what had happened, and he said that move broke Johnny's heart. And that's how it morphed into Heartbreak Hill, around 20 and a half miles, about a mile from where the statue is. And like Johnny's always said later, he goes, I came in second 7 times, because half of those I should have won. I made stupid mistakes. Like, when you pass a leader, as Boston buddies know, you keep going. You don't just exhale and go, okay, I got him, or tap him on the shoulder and wake him up. You keep going and use that momentum. And Johnny goes, I should have done that. We all make mistakes.
This was the first statue I actually did see. The first year I ran it was 2011. I remember I drove the course the 2 days before the day before, and nice. I saw this statue, and I had no idea what it was. And I got out of the car, and I walked over to kind of read the sign there, and then I learned what it meant and who Johnny Kelly was. And it was inspiring. It was inspiring to read. It just, I hadn't been really a student of running or even the Boston Marathon at that point. But that was one of the early signs of, what makes this race different than most other races.
Oh, yeah.
There's not too many that have statues like this all over the course.
No, you're right. So, and it's so nice they had that there, too, because he's such a part of this course. And he is very inspirational. I mean, when you talk to him or anything that he did, for the race, he was just so positive, asking people, how are you doing? Like what Bill Rogers is doing now. But Johnny is doing that. And in the latter years, he ran the last portion of the race from the statue. So he'd be the Grand Marshal, or they would bring him to the statue. He'd run the last 10K or so from the statue. And in the last couple of years, he was the Grand Marshal that was driven in. So, I mean, he was the face of the race. He loved it. He died in 2004. He was 97. So, I mean, he was thinking, I'm going to go to 100. He almost made it.
Yeah.
So, and The Young at Heart comes from that old movie he would always sing it, being young at heart. So that's why the statue is named Young at Heart. So he would always sing it. Yeah, it was great.
And then the next photo is the Boston Strong bridge, where they did this just a few years ago after the bombing. They start this in 2014. Was it the first year of this? Or
Yeah, 2016 is when they painted this. This is an overpass that goes over. This is probably just less than a half mile after Kenmore Square. When the runners get to Kenmore Square, it's 1 mile to go. You'll see the big painting on the ground that says 1 mile to go. Mm-hmm. And you can actually see this overpass from there. So just maybe a quarter mile from Kenmore Square. And so when you see that with a Boston Strong, one of the reasons they did that for this bridge is that when the bombs went off and when they eventually stopped the race, there were about 5,700 runners still on the course. A lot of them congregated about here, between Kenmore Square and Mass Ave, that we'll see shortly, is where a lot of people were. There were people throughout the course in Wellesley and Boston College area, but there's a lot of people in this area, so they thought it'd be nice to have the Boston Strong logo right on this overpass, which is good. I mean, it also pumps you up. It makes you remember. You know, when you go underneath this, to kind of, you know, keep in mind what had happened. But yeah, it was just nice to have. It's the Boca overpass bridge of traffic, and you can kind of see the Prudential there peeking up over there, which is which kind of neat. Damien Drella took this photo. It was really nice. This was the morning of one of the marathons. I forget which year he took it. So the reason all the police and spectators there, they're getting ready for clearing the road for the marathon, because he works for the marathon. Damien. So when he took this picture, this was the morning of one of the years. That's why the roads are cleared and you see everybody clearing. So this is what, when we're all in Hopkinton, this is what Boston looks like. We're in Hopkinton waiting as runners.
For the people that haven't run it before, I mean, just think about that. This is them clearing the path, and it's wall-to-wall people on both sides already. And it's a long time before the runners are going to get there. Like, that's how, this is a very loud part of the course. You come tearing through here, you see the sign, you know, it's hard not to be inspired. You see the Boston Strong sign, and the people there just suck you in. Like, it's so loud. It's like hard to hear. It's hard to even like concentrate as you're running. It's so loud when you start entering this part of the course.
And don't you need that too? I mean, you're excited, but you've just run 25 miles.
Yeah.
You get into Kenmore Square, and unless you have a broken leg, I don't really care how you feel. The fans will just carry you in, just there, and it echoes, right? It bounces off the buildings. So it's amazing, and I don't care how slow you are, they're there, right? Yeah. I mean, it's as you just said, and they'll just carry you in. Sometimes you start to pick it up too fast, and I'm like, no, I want to absorb all this.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, they're screaming. You know, you can see the veins popping out of their neck. They're screaming so loud for you. They're like, keep moving, especially like the runners that are slowing down or walking. You know, they really, really try and push them along and just get them to the finish, especially at that 1 mile mark too, where you see the 1 mile to go, and it's like, it's just a huge, you know, like the sound is just deafening when you get to that 1 mile mark.
Yeah, you better not walk. I mean, I remember the 2012 when it was like in the 90s, and I got to Heartbreak Hill, and I'm walking up Heartbreak Hill, and I'm getting yelled at like I just punched their dog. I mean, they were yelling at me to go, and it was good. I needed it. I had to break through whatever malaise I was in. They were just on me, and it picked me up. I mean, because they know, very learned fans, they know you have to get yelled at like a drill sergeant to get, and it's good. It's not being yelled at, cursing you or calling your names. It's encouraging yelling. If that makes sense. And the same thing with Kenmore Square, Vince. You're right. If there's a mile to go, if you're walking or sort of slouching because you're having a bad day or it's really hot, they will yell at you to pick you up. And don't take it personal like they're attacking you. They're not. They're yelling at you to go. They want you to finish. They want you to finish strong. And they'll do that. And it just picks you up, like you say, especially if you're suffering. You'll hear it and you'll love it. And then you'll finish and you'll go, boy, I wish I could thank that guy for yelling at me. And they know this is a tough spot. They know this is tough. The spectators in Boston, they just know about events and things, so they know it's a tough spot. They know you get yelled at to get you going and everything. So it's and then if you're feeling good, and they're yelling at you, it's good too. But it's just, you're right though, they'll get on you. And look how far away it is because it's 4 lanes. Doesn't matter. You'll hear it,
Oh yeah,
like you said.
yeah. It's echoing, and it's just it's wall to wall people. It's jam packed. I mean, it really is what makes that finish and that whole from here on out. It's lined with people,
Yeah.
and it's just amazing. It just sucks you right down to the finish. It's the best.
It
The
doesn't
best
matter
left
when
turn
either.
on earth. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just slow because there's some races I took a long time because of the heat and everything, and they're there. I mean, it's because they know what it takes. They know what it takes. They smart fans. So yeah, exactly. You said it. You pinpointed it exactly. It's really amazing, and it bounces off the buildings, and it'll carry you through.
Yeah. And then, all right. So the last picture that we're going to have for part 1 is the last picture on the course, which is the Tommy Leonard Bridge. So Tommy Leonard is a very special place for Boston Marathon. Can you give the audience a little information about him and what this bridge means?
Yeah, this is the Tommy Leonard Bridge, Massachusetts Avenue. For the buddies who have run this, if you look at this photo, the 2 roads on the top left corner, that's Com Ave. And in the old days of the race, we would continue over the Massachusetts Ave. But nowadays we go under this bridge, so that might give you a reference. So now what the Boston Buddies do in Boston Marathon Run is we go under the bridge on that road that you just see. Tommy Leonard, at this point in the race, this is probably about a half a mile to go. To the left of this bridge sign is the Harvard Club, but also on Mass Ave is the old Elliott Lounge location, which is in the Elliott Hotel. It's no longer there. It was like the running mecca. All the runners would go to the Elliott Lounge after the race. Famously, Bill Rogers, he dropped out on the Boston early ones, and media was asking, where are you going to go now? I'm going to get a beer or a blue whale at the Elliott Lounge. Bill Leaf, Red Sox would say that. The Elliott Lounge was about a block or 2 from this sign, and it was great. Tommy Leonard was the proprietor, so to speak. Actually, he was a barkeep, but we call him the official Boston Marathon greeter. The BA actually designated that title for him, the official greeter of the Boston Marathon. At the Elliott Lounge, he would have all the nation's flags and national anthems. If you came from different countries, Jackie Gareau, when she won in 1980, that was upstaged. They had the Canadian national anthem played for her. I think she got a free beer, of course. But he recognized everyone. He loved the sport. He had run Boston a number of times. You would go in, there'd be running-related photos and memorabilia on the walls. The long jump record would be painted on the ground. The high jump record would be painted on the wall of a line with the number. I mean, it was just the place to go. It was amazing. And Tommy Leonard was there for decades. So when they made this designation for the bridge in 1982, he loved it. It was a great thing. This is the original sign, the Tommy Leonard Bridge. It's now a nice metal one. Looks much better. They just did that a few years ago, before Tommy had passed away. They made a nice metal sign, but this is the original wooden one. But this gives you a sense as to where it is. And this was the other part of during the bombings when the race stopped. A lot of the runners congregated, and you'd see a lot of photos of a lot of the runners on the course, but not going anywhere. And this was one of the areas as well. Kenmore Square and here. Yeah. So it's a great. That's Tommy Leonard. So you would see him a lot. We'll get more into him in the second part. But yeah, that's Tommy Leonard. You'll see his name pop up a lot when you read histories and talk to Boston Marathon people. So great guy, and it's nice having that bridge since 1982. So it was nice to have it for a long time.
Yeah.
Tough spot. Going underneath that bridge, I did not like that. After running so many miles, you had to go. I loved it. On Mass Ave, you keep going straight over the bridge here, and then I forget how many years ago that they decided to go underneath so they could keep Mass Ave free for traffic, which makes sense. But as a runner, I don't know how many runners are going to moan when you hear me say this. When you go under that bridge, doesn't that hill hurt?
Oh yeah, and that's like and that part of the course, it's loud, and then you go, like, there's nobody there at the underpass basically because it's quiet, and then you come out and then it's roaring again.
Yeah, it feels like the biggest hill on the course because you're like a quarter mile away. Basically, I was Hereford and Boylston, but it's just, and if anything aches, if you have a twinge or anything, just going up the, it's another hill. It's nothing. But where it is, it's just where it is, going under the bridge and going up that hill. It's like, oh, are you kidding me? And it's like, it's, you cross between you smiling and you have a great face with everything because you're almost done. You're almost finished. And then you see everyone come up that little hill and they're like crying in pain.
Right. Right.
And then you kind of shake it off after a while. Yeah.
It's only a couple hundred yards, before you make that right on Hereford.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and it's so loud. Again, unless you've done it, it's hard to explain how loud it is when you come out of that underpass.
Oh, it's unbelievable. The TV, when you watch on TV, it doesn't do justice as well. You got to be in it to really feel, and you can feel it in your chest. It's like the Wellesley women at Wellesley College, them cheering. You just feel it in your chest.
Right.
It's like thunder and fireworks, you know, July 4th and everything. You can feel it, right? You can actually feel that support and the cheering and the spectators. It does. You really hit it from like Kenmore on. They'll carry you through. Or I don't care what you feel like. Even if you do get a broken foot, you probably don't feel it. It's just amazing that they'll carry you through. You would love to have that the whole course, but I don't know if you could sustain that as a runner. But yeah, it's just amazing. I've run 43. I've run 20 Boston 23 times and 20 other marathons throughout the world, and I have not seen or experienced. New York was close with Central Park, but yeah, it's nothing like that, and that's why we keep coming back.
Yep, I agree. So this is the last photo of the monuments and plaques on the course. So stay tuned for part two. Part two will be post-finish line area as well as other areas of the world, Iowa of all places, Canada, Ireland. So stay tuned. Paul, you've done a really nice job of putting these things together and laying out the course and giving us a lot of history and really something for us to go do. You know, to go find out about the history of the course. We can go look at all these monuments. You've given us a nice little roadmap of where we can go. This is great.
Oh, thank you. I remember like you and I saying, history is history, whether it's the race, the monument, history is history. So I love doing this. And part two you'll enjoy with the different areas after the course and different countries and everything. So all your Boston buddies who are outside of Boston, there's a few states and countries you can visit as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Great. All right, well, thank you, and thanks, Boston Buddies, and stay tuned till tomorrow, and we will discuss the other monuments that are not on the course. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.